First of all, thank you for joining us. I'm Angela. I am the VP of Social Media Marketing here at RDW Group. We also have Sarah Johnson. She is a Social Media Associate with us as well. She'll be taking you throughout most of the Facebook presentation today. I'm just going to kind of kick it off, let you guys know the positioning of Johnson in terms of the social media policy, the process, as well as key things to know about Facebook. I've talked to Deb a little bit about how we wanted to really craft this presentation, and I know that Facebook is kind of a beast in itself, right? So it's a social network. It's one of the largest ones. There's so many key components of it. So today, really, we're just walking you all through the basics, just the overall general content that you might see, some of the best practices, and also some of the engagement best practices as well. And welcome to whoever joined.
Hi, this is Marcy.
Hi, Marcy.
I'm Marcy.
Hi.
And Sarah is actually with us now as well.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like we've got most people in the room, so it's a good time to kick off. But as I was saying, this is going to be a very brief overview of Facebook. And so really we wanted to pick out the key points that we thought you all might find advantageous for today. By no means do we think that this is going to be as comprehensive. We would love to do follow-up Facebook trainings. Feel free to reach out to Deb, to us, and let us know what you want to know, and then we'll craft a training for you there too. Great. So with that said, is everyone on board?
We're set.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Let's launch in. Just to give you an idea of the objectives today, we really want to think about the Johnson social media policy and process. Some of you may be aware that this exists. Some of you might not. Either way, we'll do a quick review of how Johnson sees social media usage from a marketing communication standpoint. And we'll talk a little bit about how you all can get involved in the social media presence that we have currently in place. So you might be aware of the Johnson at Cornell social media pages that already exist on Facebook and Twitter. We want to let you guys know how you can get involved with that and how you can also request potentially in the future when you guys are ready for your own social media presence, if applicable. And then also we'll focus on just the Facebook 101, so learning the lingo. What is a share? What is a like? What is a comment? We know that some of you might already know that, but we want to reiterate the real meanings behind it, what they mean to somebody, and the value that they can bring to our content that we're sharing. In addition to that, we'll look at the best practices, how to optimize page posts and content in order to get the most shares, the most likes, the most engagement. As you all may or may not be aware, Facebook is becoming more of a platform for paid social media tactics now, meaning you can't just post a post and have thousands of people see it. Facebook has increased the qualifications of how content is served up to users. So it's harder now than ever to break through that clutter. So knowing how best to optimize that content for sharing is really going to be a key component in having a successful strategy. And then finally, analytics, just understanding some measurement key pieces there. Just to let you guys know, we're going to try to go through this quickly, but we also want to be thorough. So I think C and D, if we don't get to today, is okay. What you guys will have later on is this handbook. We'll send it to Deb, and she can send it out to all of you so you have access to that. All right? Great.
Yep.
Great. So looking at the policy and process, really, we'll be brief about this. I think a lot of this is quote-unquote common sense. But just to reiterate, we have this policy and process in place just so that we can point to it and say, yes, this is here, and if we ever have issues, we have the ability to be able to decide and make decisions in terms of how we want to handle them. But as always, treating people with respect online and in social media is key. Never engaging in any form of harassment or discrimination. Obviously protecting the institution values and what Johnson really means, and protecting that brand name. As well as the look and feel of the Johnson brand too. So utilizing logos correctly, making sure that if there are graphics being created, if you need help, reach out to the marketing team, and also ensuring that we're having ethical behavior at all times. So meaning we're following rules and regulations of Cornell University, of Johnson, and also Federal Trade Commission laws. Those are all the fine print details, if you will. We also want to look at requesting social media property creation. The great thing is I think we can all feel that social media is becoming a larger topic of conversation now than really ever before at Johnson. And more people are coming and saying, how can we get in? How can we start our own page? We want to do Facebook. We want to do Twitter. Let's do it. How can we get help? That's great. I don't think we want to create a culture of stymieing any sort of momentum that we have in social media. But we also want to keep in mind the true purpose and objective of creating those properties. Because what we have seen in the past is people opening pages, groups, things like that, that suddenly become inactive. Whoever was managing the page couldn't do it anymore, and now we have a rogue page without content that prospects could potentially be seeing or even searching and stumbling upon. So we want to make sure that people, that when you do engage in something like this, that there's a key objective and strategy. So with that said, we have a couple of questions that we always like to pose. If there's ever a time when you want to request a page or you think that there's a great opportunity to get out there in the social space, whether it's for AAND, career management centers, or even Parker Investment Center, things like that, we want to make sure that you all are able to answer these questions here, the objectives and goals, have a strategy in place, and really how that page brings value to the overall Johnson brand and also what you're doing at your center or your institute or your group in general. So what we do is request that you actually create a proposal so that the marketing communications team, Deb, Peter, Sandra, and with our help can really evaluate to see, how can we help you do this? It's a lot of work. Social media isn't something you turn on and just leave, as you'll see as we go into the Facebook training. So many minute details that really matter. And then also, so then we can figure out, is this something that we can handle right now, or is it something that might be longer term a better idea? And also, thinking about our alternatives versus opening a page on Facebook, how can we take the content that, let's say, the Career Management Center already has and put it out to our Johnson social media followers? We already have thousands of followers and fans. Why not leverage the group that we already have to really push out that message to a larger audience? Because when you create your own page, you have to create a following, and that takes a long time. So keeping those things in mind, that's why we have these policies in place. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just a couple of things too, requesting access to social properties. The beauty of having social media properties and the Johnson properties is that multiple people can have management abilities. So if there are key events that you might want to post about that are happening with CMC, whether that's on campus or elsewhere in different geographies, like the Johnson Club is in San Fran is throwing some sort of networking event that we think that our students might want to know about, or even our alum, being able to post about that event and target that appropriately to the right geography, in this case San Fran, will be important. So if you ever feel like you want to do that, let's talk. Let's think about how we can potentially give you access and also the right training so that you can do that yourself, because obviously Peter and the rest of the team have so many other responsibilities during the day. Doing all those requests at the same time would be impossible. So if you want to be empowered and educated on how to do that, let us know. We're happy to set up a conversation with you in a training. All right. So with that said, there's one last thing, just the way we categorize our social media properties. The core social media properties are the ones I've talked about. Johnson has Johnson's social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn too. We have a university page on LinkedIn and 2 company pages, one specifically for Johnson and another for our executive MBA programs. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I strongly suggest you go on, look for us, and follow and like us, help get our follower numbers up, and share our content. All right. So a couple more guidelines. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'll let you take a look at for yourself. A couple of things that people that I obviously we have seen in the past is disclosing that you are connected with Johnson. So if you're saying something great about the school, which I no doubt you guys have a lot to say, on social media. If it's on your own personal profiles, the only thing I would strongly recommend is to disclose your association if it's not apparent within your own profile. So let's say you're talking about a Johnson initiative on Twitter or Facebook. Your Facebook account or your Twitter account doesn't say that you work at Johnson, then we need to disclose that you are, in fact, associated with Johnson in some way. It's just for transparency and just to make sure that we are following social best practices. So that's just one key guideline I see a lot of people forget. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to point that out.
Angela?
Sure.
Hey, it's Sarah. I just had a question. So let's say like competitor site is posting some interesting content and you want to share that with your network. Is that kosher?
I think it depends on how you want to share it. If they have great content that you think is relevant, I would hate to say just to share it directly from the Facebook page it's coming from. So let's say, for instance, Wharton, they posted a great article about how MBAs now are taking their time finding a job in the workplace because they want to go into a position that they've always dreamed of. Unemployment rate is up for MBAs that are just leaving the institution. If they posted something like that, we thought, hey, that's good content, we want to use it, I would refrain from sharing that post onto a page just because depending on our relationship with that university or with that school, we're basically giving them a free endorsement there, or at least showing and elevating their own social media property on ours. So I would do a case-by-case basis, thinking about who that institution is or that school is before doing something like that. But if you do like the content yourself, what you can do is create your own post on your own timeline or your own page and make it your own. So if I think that's a great article, I might post about it a couple of days later, put my own messaging around it, and then post it on the page.
Okay, good. That helps me. Thank you.
Yeah. But if it's like if it's a school that we partner with all the time, and there's not really any key competitiveness behind it, then I would say you could share if you'd like. I just be cognizant of that fact.
Right.
Okay. Great. So moving on. Let's go ahead and move into the nitty-gritty of Facebook. Sarah Johnson is going to take over from here. She's got a lot to share. She's our community manager here. She works with, I think, 5 or 6 different brands managing their Facebook pages and creating content. So I'll let her take over.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sarah. Hi.
Oh, that was great. I like that all in unison. Okay, so we're going to go into some of the lingo right now, focusing mainly on Facebook-specific terms, some other social media jargon that we end up using from time to time and that we completely understand, but others may not, and some key differences between different types of profiles that are available. So let's jump right into the Facebook terms. I'm sure many of you are pretty familiar with this if you are Facebook users yourself. I know some people aren't. Are there any users here that do not use Facebook at all? Okay, great. I like that silence. So as you may be aware, there are 2 different versions of the word like in Facebook. One, probably the most common, is the post level like. So that's when you like a post from a friend or a page. Essentially, you're just showing that you appreciate it or you're interested in it or you were asked to like it and you like it. It's just some sort of acknowledgement of the post in a positive way. And then there are the bigger likes, the likes on a page level. So this is when you connect to that page, you sort of elect to receive notifications and see information from them, hear more from them. This is what we want to encourage people to do for our properties, Johnson and otherwise. So it just sort of gives you that tie, sort of joining a community and staying connected with that information. There's also the term to share. So sharing is essentially creating a copy of a post and putting it onto your own profile or putting your name on it to share it. You can add a notion or something, your opinion about it, but essentially it's taking what someone else said and spreading it even further and elevating it under your own name. And this can be done on a page that you manage or just personally. Tagging a post helps you create a link to a timeline of a person or to a page or product. So essentially, if you say you have a brand that you like and you take a picture of it. Say it's your Starbucks coffee. Take a picture of your coffee. You tag Starbucks in that picture or that post to let them know, give that brand some sort of acknowledgement. And likewise, you can do the same if you take a photograph of a friend or colleague and you tag their personal profile. Yep, and that you can do that with an @ the @ symbol. Angela just made a great point. The @ mention. So you type in the @ symbol and then begin to write their name. And generally, Facebook populates a list of potential names of people you're connected with that you can select from. Facebook fan is someone or something who has liked your page. We refer to fans a lot when we're talking about those who have liked our page. And I think previously Facebook used to call those who liked just fans to begin with. You had Facebook fans. You didn't have likes for your page. A comment is a note, or opinion, or message written in response to a page or timeline post. So essentially, that's when you comment on a post. I feel like we're all pretty familiar with that, that notion. And then another big buzzword is organic. Organic is a term we use about posts in general, Facebook posts, that refers to anything that doesn't have any paid support behind it. So you can have Facebook ads, you can have boosted posts, but organic posts is anything you put out there without any paid support that just spreads on its own virally. Any specific questions about these so far? Okay, great. Some other jargon that we tend to use, I think content is a big one. I know that content's a huge buzzword going around right now. Not always Facebook specific. It's generally just any type of information that has been created, videos, photos, links, anything essentially that can be shared or is being shared on your social media property or anywhere really. You can have content in emails, but for this instance, we're speaking just purely for Facebook content. So there also, we refer to users quite frequently. I'm sure you're familiar with the term user, but here we're just talking about anyone with a Facebook profile, so anyone who has access to the network. To post or posting something is the act of uploading or publishing your content, or referring to a published piece of content. So we sort of use it interchangeably. You can post something, the action of posting, or a post, the noun, the thing, the existing post that's on your Facebook timeline. There's also a term metadata that you might be familiar with. Basically, metadata is the information that helps you organize things online, essentially. So it's when you, specifically for Facebook, when you copy and paste a link to upload a post, it's that box that comes up with all the information, hopefully the title of the article or the information you're posting, a little description about it, and an image. We touched on the word viral a minute ago, and virality is just the spread of content throughout a social media platforms, the internet, anything. It's just how things move online.
And whenever you hear someone say, I'm going to create viral content, tell them that they're not, that that's a lie, because content is never viral to begin with. Content goes viral.
Excellent point. And then finally, the big one, hashtag. A lot of people have trouble with hashtags or understanding them, and feel free to jump in a minute if you do. We'd be happy to explain it better or more further, I guess. But hashtag is a word or phrase that's preceded by a hash or pound sign depicted there. And it's used to identify messages or a specific topic, and you can use it to promote an event, to group or curate content together. It's essentially just a way to tag things on a more global scale.
And it's also more benefit.
I thought that was more typically used for Twitter versus Facebook.
That's an excellent point. It did start mostly on Twitter, but about a year ago, I believe Facebook opened up its graph search, they call it, which we can get into another time, but to recognize hashtags. So they are currently very highly functional on Facebook. You don't see them quite as frequently because people aren't used to using them as often, but they're just as important and just as impactful.
And just so you all know, on LinkedIn, however, hashtags cannot be used. So there are some social platforms that do allow it and some that don't.
So why don't they allow it? Because LinkedIn allows you to also tweet, so I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way LinkedIn allows you to tweet is that they just connect your accounts together, and so then there's a little API source that gets linked over to Twitter, but you can't actually use, hashtags are not actually clickable within LinkedIn. We're not sure why. I think part of it is just a decision to keep it clean, I guess you could say, is without the hashtag usage on the actual interface. But they also, LinkedIn also has a closed API network, so a lot of tools, social media tools out there can't really hack into it or break into it like you can with, let's say, Facebook or Twitter, where you're going to bring in icons or feeds into your own website. I don't know why. That's kind of LinkedIn's own thing right now. I think they're trying to make it more closed so that they can utilize that space for their own long-term profit.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, LinkedIn is focused mostly on more personal connections and that whole circle of your own network. So I think the idea of a hashtag is certainly larger and more viral, and they might not see the application for it yet. But we'll see. We'll see with LinkedIn.
And just one other thing about hashtags, too, from a listening and monitoring perspective, we use hashtag Cornell MBA quite a bit to understand our quote-unquote share of voice in the social media space, meaning how many mentions we get within a month compared to our peer institutions, let's say Sloan or Booth or Stern. So we, from our social media side, measure that, too. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on. So here we'll get into some key differences between Facebook timeline profiles, or many people just call them profiles, your Facebook pages and groups. So the Facebook timeline or profile is what many of you probably have personally, which is your own personal profile. It's where your information lives. You share where you work if you care to. You have your own friends. It's all about you and your experiences. The Facebook page is generally more brand-oriented. Facebook pages help businesses, organizations, and just brands in general share stories and connect with people and their fans, as we call them. And it helps them stay in touch with those who are on Facebook and are interested in them or their product or their service. Facebook groups are a lot more targeted, you could say. They're more specific, and they're meant to connect smaller groups of people or people with certain larger interests, I guess you could say. So fans of pets might have a group of pet lovers, whereas PetSmart would have their own page for their business. So I guess those are the three different ways that Facebook breaks things down. A lot of people have some confusion with Facebook's timelines and pages, where they will set up a business page under their own personal profile. So instead of using a name, they will use their business name. That's definitely frowned upon through Facebook. You do still see it, but it's harder to keep track of your fans and those connecting with you and share content. You have different opportunities there with a Facebook page versus a profile. Any questions? Okay. Here's a nice little chart we use to sort of break down the objective, audiences, content, paid opportunities for the different pages. We don't have to go into this right now. This is something you can look back on as you're figuring out what appropriate pages are there for you, but just something to reference in the future. All right, so this is the good stuff, the optimizations of page posts in your content. So this is how we get into, Angela touched on it earlier, sort of optimizing the information you have and turning it into something that's more shareable, that'll get more reach, that'll be in front of more people, especially with Facebook sort of switching up its algorithm and making it a little harder for us to get in touch with our fans. So here is just sort of a basic depiction of the before and after of what your post was and what it could be. And for this example, we use just a little a quippy statement and then a piece of your own content just so it's a little bit more relatable, but obviously the link does not tie into what we're talking about here. So why should you optimize your posts? You increase your brand share of voice in the space through stakeholder participation, getting in front of more eyes. You increase referral and word of mouth by making things shareable. So someone sees something that they like that you post, they share it, their friends see it. You know the way that works. Elevating your brand thought leaders and solidifying your credibility. So this is just a way to share the things you're doing. Johnson does it a lot. Connect yourself with other thought leaders in the space, and sort of join together to have more of an online presence. And also just engaging and beginning a conversation with stakeholders. We find this a lot with brand work and prospects, where you can hear more feedback from people and get a better idea of what's going on. So this is a big list of engagement best practices. These are things to keep in mind when you're creating content. We'll pull out some of them. I won't go through all of them today. Again, this is something you can touch back on. So being personable and authentic is really important when publishing your content. You don't want to be selling anything. This isn't the space for that. It's more of a personal space where you can connect with your fans on that level. Try to include a link or photo with every post. This is something that's with the way Facebook works and just how people interact with these things online. Your engagement is just going to, we'll go so much further when you include links and photos. Mentioning different brands or people in your posts helps you go a long way. It just lets them know that things are happening around them in the space. And interacting on your posts when people comment or share or write any of their input, you like it and you show some sort of acknowledgement. A thing to note about getting out there on Facebook is dealing with the negativity that sometimes and often comes along with it. And it's just important to remember, we noted at the bottom, that negativity is not always bad, while it seems so at the time. And whenever someone writes something about you or your institution or your brand, you get a little sensitive and it seems rough. But it's important to think of it as a connection and an insight into your audience that you wouldn't have ever been aware of prior. They would have just talked about it to a friend and made that impact otherwise. So some important points about dealing with negativity is not to delete posts or comments or any of those actions just because they're negative. If they do violate a community guideline or standards, if they're lewd, there are certain standards you can set up for yourself, then that's a different story. But otherwise, it's just important to acknowledge the negativity and address it in a positive way and turn the negative into a positive, or at least a neutral. So some notes here that you can go into later, but it's important to direct the exceptionally negative conversation away from the public forum. So not to hash it out on a public post on your page about a negative experience someone had or a negative notion they want to talk about.
And just to add on to that too, I think a good way, in case everyone has a page or is thinking about their own personal pages themselves or potential pages in the future, if ever that comes up where you have someone posting something negative, you can always direct them to direct message you on the Facebook page platform, which allows you to connect with them outside of the public forum, so it's only you and them connecting through a page, through that direct message. So that is a key opportunity there. And we just review these because as we open more social media properties, it really gives, it's a great thing for Johnson, but we also have to think about how it opens the doors for negative commentary as well. So we have to weigh the benefits and then also be very careful and wise about the risks that are inherent with being active in social. By no means do we think that that should stop you from being active, but being able and aware to address them appropriately is key. So if there's ever a time where something happens to you on social media and you don't know what to do or say, and it's in relation to Johnson, let the marketing and communications team know. We're happy to help provide some advice and recommendations.
All right. So this is a nice little diagram about the anatomy of a post. Now this is what we consider a version of an ideal post, where you have your catchy intro statement that sort of draws people in. You've learned about this probably your whole life in writing styles. A relevant tag, if applicable. You don't always need to be tagging things in your post, but say you share a link from Bloomberg Business, you might want to tag them and acknowledge them as a source. An engaging call to action. This is what drives your reader or viewer to take the next step that you want them to, whether it's going to following through to your link, liking the post, sharing it with their friends, or commenting a bit of information. It's great to include a link to more information. We like to shorten these links. Sometimes you don't need to, but generally links get long and messy and pretty unappealing looking. So we like to shorten it to help with tracking and just for the aesthetics of the post. Always great, like we've touched on, to include a relevant hashtag. You don't need to, and you shouldn't always be tagging everything, but when applicable, certainly add a hashtag. They do say the best practice is no more than 4 hashtags, especially on a Facebook post, because after that it becomes sort of irrelevant. It's nice to put a large image in. Many times when you upload a link to Facebook, you get a tiny little image on the side that is just hard to catch, especially in mobile. A lot of users, I think it's 60% of Facebook users now are on mobile. So we like to have a nice large image, and we'll show you how to update that later. And some accurate and informative metadata that sometimes will populate on its own, but other times you might have to dress up a little bit. And we'll get into that in just a second. All right. So the first thought is to be engaging. So to draw your users to engage with the content through catchy hooks and concise, clear language, including calls to action. So you've seen posts, I'm sure, that are very, very long, that are almost a paragraph or several sentences. It's best to keep your post above the fold, which is where it asks you to see more. I'm sure you've all seen the ellipse, and you have to click to elect to see more of the post. How many characters is that? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not at the top of my head, but we can definitely provide that.
We can look into that. It's not many. I think it's around 200, something around there.
And sometimes it depends on the type of content. We've seen kind of this renewal of long-form content on Facebook, so you might see those posts that are like 3 paragraphs long, but you still read them for some reason. For Johnson's page, if you look at the Facebook page, you'll see good examples of that, and you'll also see good examples of shortened or short little descriptions as well, just because we like to let the visual or the link actually tell the story too.
Certainly. And as you see here, we have the call to action we're considering for this post. It's like, get the facts here. And that sort of calls out to the reader and encourages them that there is more information or more things that they would be interested in if they click that link. Okay. Like we just mentioned, being visual is hugely important on Facebook and many social media platforms now, almost all of them, I would say. We have a stat at the bottom that says posts that contain photos garner 120% more engagement than other posts. And that's even from, I think, obviously, as all research goes, it's probably from a year ago where the updates haven't been made, where they put a lot more emphasis on photos and visuals on Facebook. So as you can see here, we sort of spell out where that red circle is and the option to upload an image. That image right there, or that screenshot of a post, is what originally happened when we added the link. So as you can see, there's the long www.johnson link and the tiny, tiny photo. So to make this other image, I took a screenshot of the page. It's best to use images that come from the page itself, even if you have to save them to your computer or use them that way, just so they're accurate, so you're not portraying something that isn't actually true to the link. And you simply click Upload Image, and you upload it like you'd add any other photo to Facebook, which if anyone needs help with that, always let us know. So uploading the larger photos really optimizes the link. It draws the attention in, and as you can see, it doubles the space that your post will take up on the timeline. So that helps certainly a lot as viewers are scrolling through. Any questions about this? Okay. And just before I pass to you,
Angela, I mean Sarah. So what about links to brief video clips?
Oh, I'm sorry, links to video clips?
No.
So about the size of how the video appears?
Well, I see, we see, like you said, the photos get you more attention. Is it the same case with video? Obviously, you got to be careful. It can't be too long of a video, but.
Oh, of course. Yep, that certainly applies. That's definitely along the same lines. Visuals could be graphics, videos, anything along those lines. Great question.
And if there's a way that we can upload a visual to and attach it to a link, that's even better. Photos are doing great, but links now are getting even more prominence than ever before in the news feed of Facebook too. They keep changing the algorithm, and what we mean by the algorithm is what basically dictates what you see when you log into Facebook. And so Facebook gives prominence to the visuals, but now they're starting to give a lot of prominence to included links. So as Sarah had already said, just to upload those images within a link is really important.
Okay. Here we touch on being effective with your post, and this is where we change the metadata And this is the information that populates when you paste the link into the post. So essentially the idea here is that you only have one chance per post at conveying your message, and there's only so much space and so much opportunity within your post, and you really want to maximize that. This link right here isn't a great example of poor metadata. This is actually a very good example at the Johnson School, but sometimes you'll get a link and you'll paste it in and nothing will be in either of these boxes. So it's important to update it, maybe alter the title a little bit better to reach out, so it gives your reader a little bit more information or more specific information about what you want them to take from this post or this link.
So it's like the headline on there, which you are allowed to change on Facebook, should get the reader to want to click. That's really the end goal. So what are you going to say that's associated with that content that's going to make me want to read more?
All right, great. And there are times where there is no information in the metadata, where there's no image that you can change and there is no description of the page. Generally, there is always a title. But sometimes you run into no information at all, which is just sort of an unfortunate fact, and either you choose to post without that information or you might want to find another source or something a little more reputable. All right, this one's about staying connected. So it's using Facebook mentions and tags, even hashtags to connect your content to themes, brands, and giving credits to sources. So I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. We did talk about it earlier, but using that @ mention, that @ symbol before typing in the name, helps you really identify. Sometimes it will populate automatically for you as you're typing out the name. This example is Facebook, but any name really. It's when you're tagging a person, generally you have to use the @ symbol to mention them, but it will work with the @ symbol regardless. So.
One thing to note there, too, is that a lot of the times, depending on how the Facebook page setting is, so let's say, for instance, here, Facebook does allow us to tag them in posts. Some pages don't. So if for some reason it doesn't populate with a highlighted, it looks like basically a hyperlink to the other person's page, and that means likely their page doesn't allow mentions or tags. That's just whatever organization or company's own standard or brand that they want to keep in place.
And it is also very important to double check the pages too before. Yeah. Sometimes things have generic names, it would seem, so there are several versions of that name online. So you might want to double check that it's the right page before you move forward and tag them in your post. This one's about being trackable, so shortening links if applicable, and using something like Bitly or another system that you may have in place to keep track of your links and where they're going. Facebook analytics are really good, but they're not always great at letting you know how many links are clicked or what specific link was clicked, and for Google Analytics where things go from there. So if you want to have more of a strong record of how your posts are performing and where people are being driven to, then we suggest shortening things like this, as you can see here.
And there are a lot of different tools that allow you to shorten URLs. Bitly isn't the only one. There's also TinyURL and things like that. But that's what we use on the marketing side right now that helps us track how many clicks are going through. But if this is kind of a deeper conversation, so if you ever do come across this need, then we would have already had a conversation about creating a social property and the content that will be going out. So we'll definitely dig into detail whenever that time comes.
Okay. And here, we're actually making it to the finish line here. This is impressive.
We'll be brief about this and give time to ask questions at the end. Yeah.
Understanding a little more about measurement. This is a screenshot of Johnson's analytics view of their page. So it shows you the page likes, the reach, the post reach, a whole bunch of different metrics, which we will explain right now. So you've probably heard a lot of these things, especially when we're reporting or other people are giving you feedback about your pages or others. And these are all metrics for Facebook pages only. You can't get these metrics for your personal profile. But total reach is different from impressions. I know if you're in marketing, you've heard a lot about impressions over the years. Reach is the number of unique people who saw your posts from your page during a given period of time. So essentially, the total reach is all of the people who saw any of your posts during a period of time and the unique people. Impressions are all of the people, and one of those people might have seen it 50 times. Reach only counts that person one time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, great. Sometimes it's a little tricky to wrap your head around. Engagement is another key metric, and engagement is essentially people, the number of unique people who clicked, liked, commented on, or shared your post. So any action that they take with or on your post. And that could be your total post too. That could be in a given period of time. And then individual post reach, same idea as total reach. It's just one specific post instead of all of your posts over a period of time. And then one we're familiar with, likes, and these are the page likes in this specific example. It's the number of users who have chosen to connect with your page.
And sometimes that's referred to lifetime likes, meaning how many total people are within your Facebook page community, so within the lifetime that your page has been in existence.
And there are other metrics too for Facebook. These are just the ones that we find most important and the most relevant overall. So there are tons more that I'm sure if we need to, we can dive into in another session.
I think the only thing I would add on, and this is just something that we use for ourselves, is engagement rate. Usually that's the total people reached versus how many people have engaged, just so that we can understand what percentage of the people that we've reached have actually clicked or taken an action for us.
Okay. And here we can look at this really quickly, but then we'll jump into questions. This is in the analytics dashboard. This is a way you can look at your posts. I'm sure if you have your own Facebooks, you've seen your posts and how many likes and comments. But this is a nice overview of how you can really take in a nice bird's eye view of how everything went. You can see on the top the number of people reached, the number of likes, comments, and shares, and it breaks it down really individually in there for you for a nice glimpse of how your post was doing. And then just to give you a better look, if you haven't seen analytics dashboard before, just so you can sort of see how it all happens. Oh, I know, I was fancy with my hyperlinks. So this is the Johnson Schools analytics. So you can see here, total page likes are up. Our new page likes this week are up by 18%. Our total reach, our post reach is going up. So this means that our content organically is doing really, really well. Paid will affect this as well, but it's overall an homage to the organic content. The number of people engaged is up. Like, so you can basically get a glimpse of everything going on. And further, you can see how the individual posts are doing and look into those. So this is where we pulled that post information from in the PowerPoint. And like you can go through and click and dive a little bit deeper into more specific aspects of your page, which is very, very interesting and insightful as you're getting to know it.
So Sarah, is that a free service there for those metrics?
It is. It's free with your page.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's where we're pulling a lot of the Facebook information that we have in our social media reports.
And you are able to export data here. You can do it on several different levels through different date ranges, everything like that. So it's very insightful.
And you get that from your profile page?
You cannot.
So how do you get the data? Where?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mean from the Johnson's page there?
So if it's a business page, you can get this, but what about if it's a personal page?
You cannot get it if it is a personal page.
Yeah, okay.
Business page.
That's why it's so important that if you open up a presence on Facebook that you choose a company page versus a profile, because you have these insights and analytics to help you.
Okay.
Okay. I had a question. You mentioned that when you're measuring share of voice through the hashtag CornellMBA, which you're able to get through the Twitter activity, what about, and I see what you're doing here with the Facebook, but what about for LinkedIn? How do you measure share of voice on LinkedIn?
Share a voice cannot be measured on LinkedIn right now because of their closed API, their closed network. So no tool right now in social media, no social media monitoring tool can get to that. But what you can do is measure performance on that platform. So LinkedIn has its own dashboard of insights, very similar to Facebook, that lets you see how much engagement, how much reach you're getting.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Another unfortunate piece of having open networks versus closed, hopefully LinkedIn will open up sometime in the future, then we are able to better monitor that space, but for now it's closed.
It's likely that it would become open, yeah?
Yeah, maybe. I think they're keeping the cards close to their chest just because I think they want to be able to better monetize the platform. So we'll see.
I see.
And then Twitter just recently made a change so that it visually looks very similar to Facebook, correct?
Very much so.
Yeah, looks very similar, the layout and the template.
When you have a full page, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, even some of the capabilities are very similar now as well. Do you have any other questions about this, or do you want to revisit any particular places or aspects?
So you're able to delete, like, a post that, you know, if you made a mistake or you need to retype it or whatever on Twitter and LinkedIn. You're able to do that on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are, and they actually just updated recently the ability to edit links. Before, if you were to post a link, you could not edit what you had written. You were able to delete it and start over, but you couldn't edit it while it was live, which was a little bit of a hassle at times. You could edit photos, so say you post a photo, the information you post along with it is the caption for the photo. So you were always able to edit that, but now you're even able to edit links, and you do not have to delete them first.
Okay. Good. All right.
Yeah, do you want to take a look at that?
Sure. It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, any other questions today?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Great. We're good. No.
Excellent. All right, well,
Thanks for your time.
I'm sorry?
Thanks for your time today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for your time. It was great. And we will follow up with this presentation. We have been recording it, so barring any computer tragedy, we'll be able to forward this along for your records, and we'll also send you a PDF of the presentation so you can have it to reference and print out, what have you.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.